too often to film down there because there was a skull.
There was a what?
A person's skull down there.
Where are we?
Sophia, at Natural Bridge.
The where at Natural Bridge?
Sophia, if you ever say like in Virginia. Is this thing real?
No, it's just wet rock. A lot of people think it's slimy and gross, but it's just whetstone. So this is a very, very basic formation. This is called flowstone. This is
So the main goal is not to touch it.
So we can touch this one because we're in a man-made portion, but yeah, once we get inside the cavern, we're not allowed to touch them anymore.
Why?
Why? Because the oils from our fingers actually affect the formation, so we try not to touch them too much because it makes the water go in weird directions. But again, this one isn't a man-made tunnel, so it's not really protected under the same walls and stuff. But yeah, we're going to see a really gross one when we get really far down, but it does feel exactly the same.
No, thank you.
Here, and catch some history real quick. That goes all the way up to the surface. It's about 250 feet. It's a crawl of a 250-foot journey, though. You come out filthy. So this is kind of like the transitional point between the natural cavern and the man-made tunnel. So a little bit. Also take note of the passageway down to your right, and I'll talk about that once we get to the next video. So again, take your time, take it nice and slow, take lots of pictures, just be careful. And we go.
Here we go.
Jeffrey, use your head.
I know, I'm gonna wash my head.
Grandma Cindy, maybe 5 foot is like the perfect height.
This thing is no
I'm not too
problem.
small, yet I'm not too tall. You good, Mom? So far.
Mommy, this place is no problem because I'm
Watch your head, Jeffrey.
No.
bend down. Daddy,
Yeah, watch your head.
back.
No, it's hard to film and watch my head, okay?
That holds. Mom, that holds.
I'm ducking.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're welcome to take lots of pictures and videos. Just try not to get too much of me. I'm under witness protection, so. Oh yeah, so that's what happens when you get lost. Sure enough. We got some decorations floating around, but it's good that you're keeping your eyes open. So that's how we know that you're actually paying attention. So good eye. The solution hole up in the top of the ceiling, that's probably my favorite feature of the room. The reason that's up there on top of the mountain above that spot is a really big sinkhole or depression in the land. And that sinkhole is funneling all the rainwater down to the same spot, the solution hole down here. So over the last very, very, very long time, it's washed away all the weaker limestone. The scary thing about that is, down here we have a solution hole, and up top we have a sinkhole. And in between the two, there's about a 50-foot layer of limestone that's eventually going to collapse. It's going to land right on the stairs, make a huge mess down here, but eventually that's going to open up into a natural entrance. I say that can be scary. We did have a geologist check it out with a ground-penetrating radar a few months ago, and he said that plate was actually full of really, really big fractures, and anytime we have a lot of rain like we had yesterday, we really have to... I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We didn't actually have it checked out. I'm kidding again. No, we did have it checked out. That plate is good and secure. They actually have to check Natural Bridge pretty often as well. Route 11 runs across Natural Bridge, and the vibrations from the road affect that structure as well. So we do have to keep a close eye on stuff like that. That would be bad press in more than one way, if you know what I mean. Anyhow, for the next part of the tour, we're going down and to the left. There's a very, very sharp rock at the entrance to the next passageway. We call it the barber because we find hair on it all the time. Please don't let that happen to you. I'm going to point it out. Please point it out to those behind you. You can touch it with your fingers, just not your forehead. If you can't reach it, don't try to jump for it. It's sharp. Because it's sharp. here, so it would actually feel kind of warm. Yeah. So it's kind of all in your mind. Oh yes, and there's pretty much no level floors in this cavern, so I guess is what you said.
Why is there water down there?
That is a good question. And again, if some of y'all want to start working your way around the bridge, we're going to be heading across the bridge for the next part. Just don't go too far across the bridge. So this little room here is known as the Mirror Lake room for this little body of water. The reason we call it Mirror Lake is due to the amount of magnesium in the water. There's so much magnesium, it causes the light to bend or refract off the surface, so it looks kind of shallow in there. It's about 1.5 feet deep there in the center. The reason it's got so much magnesium in it, it's stagnated water. It's trapped here by a mineral known as dolomite, which we'll see in the next room. Dolomite is non-porous, so it does not let the water pass through it, and for that reason, this water is trapped here. The only time it leaves the little pool is when the caverns flood. It washes up and into that next room, and for that reason, the floor of the next room is very, very damaged, which y'all will see in just a moment. Do you have a question? The big darkened tunnel over on the side of the room, that's the abandoned tourist route. That's where we send the unruly kids when they start acting up.
Jeffrey, I think you were meant to film down there because there was a skull.
There was a what?
A person's skull down there. Oh. You shouldn't have filmed that.
Oh.
You saw a skull?
Yes, a real one.
It was a prop.
It was not fake.
Okay.
If it was fake, then they would have let us go down there and see it. But if it wasn't real, then
You think there's water down there?
This little room here is known as the waterfall room, which is a bit of a bummer. Nobody ever gets to see the waterfall. That occurs when we're flooding really badly. You can see where the water would fall if we had enough. It's over here on the side of the room, and we do have a few sprinkles fueling it right now. But you can see where the limestone's been ground down over the last very, very long time. There is a little freshwater pool at the base of the non-existent waterfall. Freshwater meaning it's not stagnated like Mirror Lake. It does continue working its way down through the mountains. So we'll catch up with that water once we get downstairs to the well room. Since we don't have a waterfall in this room, I prefer to call it the dolomite room because I do have an excellent example of the mineral dolomite. This whole ceiling is dolomite. That's that pale stuff above us, non-porous, does not let water pass through it, and for that reason it doesn't form formations. So if you guys want to touch the dolomite, you're allowed to because it doesn't form formations. For my shorter folks, it goes all the way down to here, minus the moss, of course. It's going to leave your fingers feeling kind of powdery. That's magnesium. Just wipe that on your pants. Some people go to smell and taste the magnesium. Maybe don't do that. Don't let me ruin your adventure, though. Anyways. Yeah, so that's my dolomite. It's a calcium magnesium carbonate, so the magnesium does kind of rub right out of it. The other thing we're allowed to interact with here at the caverns, I just don't suggest it because it'll stain your clothes, is the huge abundance of clay that we have down here. This is a big old chunk of clay, and you can see where the youngsters have been poking at it. Don't get much more involved than a poke, though. So yeah, this is a big chunk of clay. This is actually a much, much bigger chunk of clay. This whole hillside is actually nothing but a whole lot of clay. It's about 2 to 3 feet all the way through there. And that's where one of the biggest problems comes from within the caverns. When it floods, the clay likes to shift around and it can damage floors, engulf rooms. Every time it floods, we have to fight the clay off of this side of the bridge, so that's fun. So we're actually constantly battling this giant mound of clay up here. It does make excellent pottery if you're into that kind of thing. We used to have a Monacan Indian exhibit set up at the state park, and they would come through and gather up the clay and make all kinds of cool stuff for us to sell up in the shop. It's something actually from the caverns, but again, the state took it over and it's on hiatus right now. The column up there is actually the main support beam for the entirety of the cavern ceiling. Sure enough, that's a load-bearing column. I'm kidding. No, he looks like he's doing a lot of work though, so I try to give him a little bit of credit. You know what I mean? And what we're looking at up that way is just a dead end. If you look at it on a map, it just kind of dead ends. It narrows off and it just dead ends. So there is a little side room adjacent to this room. It's not much bigger than a walk-in closet, so I'm not going to go down there myself. It's a cool little room to check out though, so we'll give everyone plenty of time to rotate around and check out in there. If you go all the way into that room and you turn around and look up to the left on the ledge in there, there's a stalagmite that's developed algae all over it, so we definitely stunted the poor fella. But he's got a couple of bulbous points, so he kind of looks like a frog, so we call it the frog rock, sure enough.
Is it possible for us to get lost in here?
It is not possible for us to get lost in the commercialized area. The natural entrance, on the other hand, does sprawl quite way across the mountain, and everything looks the same because there's no moss and algae. It's not commercialized. Some of the passages are really, really small.
Or unless you go off the trail.
Yeah, so mainly only if you go to the uncommercialized area. But we're all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's high.
I bet nobody can climb that.
Yeah, that's high.
There's no possible way.
Here comes, turn off the lights.
So we're gonna hit all the lights. We're gonna hit the last light in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's just us in the dark. No creepy crawlers or scaries down here.
All right, it's gonna instantly fog up, but it is what it is. What did you girls think of the caverns?
Cold.
Really good? Cold? Cold but good.
I'm wearing shorts.
Wearing short, yep.
A hoodie.
Yep, you got a hoodie.
Also.
You got a hoodie. I got a hoodie. Mommy got a hoodie.
I got rocks.
The caverns at Natural Bridge in Virginia. What did Grandma Cindy think?
It was cold and the ceiling was low.
It's cold and the ceiling was low. What did Mama think?
I realized I got a Dr. Pepper and I got my Dr. Pepper shirt.
Yep. And it's really foggy now. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. If you've watched this far, if you like the video, consider hitting the like button
Watching this far.
and subscribing.
Us, and we thank you. Okay, bye.
We will see you next time.